Soma is the new sci-fi horror game released by Frictional Games, which is the developer behind Amnesia Dark Descent. It very much follows in its predecessor's path, but in a whole new setting and with a very different feel. The result is a super atmospheric horror game that takes the nope to a whole new level. I'll be the first to admit that horror games are not my usual genre, though I've played a handful of titles, some all the way through, some not. I'm the type to get super immersed and super freaked out in games like this, so regarding the scare content, your mileage may vary. But in this review, I'm going to try to focus on the types of scares you're going to encounter so you can gauge it for yourself. That said, it's incredibly clear that this is a well-crafted horror game that's going to be a prime example of its genre. Much like Amnesia, you're never given a weapon. Your only defense is to either run or hide, and you're going to be doing plenty of both. There are puzzle elements to the game, though they're not very involved and they're not likely to slow you down for very long. One major difference from Amnesia is the number of times you actually encounter monsters. Amnesia did this thing where it would make you think that something was always just around the corner, but it really wouldn't be. This game does that too. But there are so many monster encounters that I never found myself actually lulled into that sense of security, thinking that nothing was probably there, because usually it was. Soma covers a pretty broad spectrum of scare types. If you have a weakness, you're probably going to encounter it at some point. There aren't very many intentional jump scares, unless you're easily startled like me, in which case, have fun with that. There are a lot of pursuit and chase sequences in this game, including several that you'll be navigating blind without having a chance to check out the area first. I personally find these super intense, and every time that I got close to noping out of the game, it was during one of those. Several of these sections are also long, and sometimes even back-to-back with no puzzles in between to kind of lighten it up. In the Amnesia tradition, there is a strong sense of atmosphere in this game that really contributes to the creepiness of it. The environments themselves add a lot of tension, with enough variety to never feel monotonous. The style of storytelling is one place where Soma definitely departs a bit from the earlier Amnesia games. There's a fair amount of exposition, which is awesome because the story is really, really cool. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but from the moment you start the game, it becomes clear that you're going to be testing and exploring concepts of what's real and what's not. The development of the story is definitely one of the things that kept me playing through the tougher parts, because I really found myself developing a strong interest in the characters and feeling like I had to know what happened to them and how things turned out. And it deals with some interesting larger issues that really make you think. All that said, let's talk about the weaknesses of the game. The one thing that bothered me about the monsters was that they have a clairvoyant AI, meaning that even if they didn't detect you or have any reason to think you had moved, they would adjust their movements and their patrols to constantly be a threat to you. I'm sure some people are really going to appreciate that because it adds a lot of challenge to the monster sequences. For someone like me, where feeling chased or trapped really gets to you, it can add a lot of intensity to the point where it kind of borders on too much. Secondly, it's a minor gripe, but the dialogue in the opening cinematic is pretty cringeworthy. It gets a lot better, but it's not exactly the best introduction to the game. Soma definitely harkens back to its Amnesia predecessors while upping the ante to a new level. It's got an incredible atmosphere and an intriguing story that's gonna make you think, and a little something for everyone in the scare department. If you're looking for a high-quality horror game, this is a great choice.